Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk to you about brushes and the different types of brushes there are and what they do. I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible. Some of you may think that the descriptions are a bit vague. The reason that I'm doing that is because I don't want this to become confusing. A lot of times I have a tendency to sort of insert my own opinions and thoughts on things, and I want to keep this video more informative and less opinionated. This video is based off my experience working as a makeup artist, also working for MAC for 4 years. I'm going to do the best I can at explaining these brushes and keeping it as simple as I possibly can. So we're going to start with blending brushes. If you guys hear noise in the background, my dogs are in here and they are wrestling around with each other at the moment. Okay, so, and it's so distracting because I'm trying to do this and they're over here and the big dog, he's breathing. All right, I'm gonna try to focus. Okay, blending brushes, they do just that. They blend out color. Depending on the size, the length of the bristles, how much they splay, you can get a sheer blend or you can get a more concentrated blend. Brushes like this that are much more, where the bristles are much more splayed, this is going to really shear the color down. You're going to have to add several layers in order to get that color to be a little bit more vibrant. So if you have a brush that has very splayed bristles on it, just think sheer amounts of color, and you're going to have to add a lot in order to build that color up. Bristles like this, or brushes like this, where the bristles aren't as splayed, they're a little bit more dense. This is going to give you a little bit more color concentration. If you really want to shear the color down with a brush like this, you're going to have to work a little bit harder. Oh, and one more thing that I wanted to say too is there are lots and lots of YouTube makeup artists, and what I mean by that is they do makeup on themselves and no one else. So their experience is limited to their face, to their eye shape, to the amount of lid space that they have. So if somebody that has miles of lid space is using a brush like this to blend out their crease color, and they say to you, this is the brush you need to blend out your transition color, but they're not specific as to who this is going to work best for, somebody who has that much lid space is going to go buy this brush and they're going to try to blend out their crease, and then they're not going to understand why it's not working. So I feel like if you're watching a YouTube makeup artist and they're not explaining to you the differences between brushes and who they're good for, or if they're not saying things like, if you have eyes like mine, this will work good for you. If they're not saying things like that, then just keep in mind that their recommendations are based off of their experience with their face, and that's it. Alright, getting back to the blending brushes. So again, this one's going to give you a little bit more concentration of color. You will have a little bit more control over the blend, but if you really want to shear color down, you're going to have to work a little bit harder. This is another example of a blending brush. Brushes like this are good for small areas. Also, you can use brushes like this to blend out color along the lower lash line. Again, just think concentrated areas. Also, because the tip of the bristle is more splayed, it's also going to be a more sheer application of color. The denser the brush, the more concentration of color there is. So if you have a brush like this that has splayed bristles, the pickup of the color is going to be more sheer. This is an awesome blending brush. This shape is very universal, good for anyone. The reason that this is a good brush is because there's several different sides. So you have the flat side, which is good for applying color to the lid. You have the narrow side, which is good for a controlled blend through the crease, and then you can turn the brush so that it's more on the wide side so that you can shear the color down in the crease a little bit more. This kind of brush I definitely recommend for anyone, regardless as to the size of your eye, the amount of lid space that you have. And when I say size of your eye, what I really mean by that is the lid space and how far down your crease is, or whatever the case may be. This is a great brush. I'm showing you guys MAC brushes because that's what I have. You don't have to have MAC brushes. Pretty much any company now that makes eye makeup brushes, or makeup brushes in general, I should say, they sell brushes with these similar shapes. MAC hasn't cornered the market on the size and shape of these brushes. Alright, so those are some examples of blending brushes. Now, so applying color to your lid and the different types of brushes that are available for you. So this is a more traditional example of an eyeshadow brush. This is a goat hair brush. It's good for using with powder. I find that brushes like this will apply color beautifully. It's a little bit more of a soft application of color. It's not going to be very sort of concentrated. I find that brushes like this do not play very well with glitter or pigments. reason that I don't think these brushes work very well with pigments or glitter is because even though it appears to be a very dense brush, it's more on the soft side. The bristles are natural, so when you pick like pigment up with this and you apply it to your lid, it's not going to be as sort of a precise application of color, simply because of the shape and the fact that it is natural bristle. The next brush I'm going to show you is perfect for pigments, perfect for pretty much anything. This is the shape of the bristles here. You can see that it is very narrow. The tip is very narrow. It's very thin. It's a synthetic brush, which means that this brush is pretty much perfect for anything. It's perfect for applying cream colors. It's perfect for applying glitter, for pigments. It's good if you want to do some precision work on your eyelid. If you like to do a cut crease, this brush would be really good for following the contour of your socket. Picks up pigment like a dream. Picks it up and it stays there. It doesn't poof everywhere. I just think that brushes like this are far more superior to a more traditional eyeshadow brush in terms of placing pigment and glitter. Hope I'm doing a good job of explaining that because it makes sense in my head, but I don't know if it's coming out correctly. Brushes like this, where they're a little bit more fat, very dense, short bristle, you want to think lots of color, heavy concentration of color. These work really good with loose pigments as well. For example, MAC pressed pigments. As a matter of fact, when they launched their pressed pigments, this was the brush that it came out with because it picks up a lot of the loose shadow and it deposits that amount onto your lid. So you're going to get the maximum amount of color on your lid with a brush like this. You can also use this with regular sort of powder eyeshadows, but this is awesome being used with pressed pigments. Brushes like this are a godsend on days when you have zero time. Why is that? Because look at how big that sucker is. It picks up a lot of color, puts down a lot of color in a short period of time. Days when I want to sort of look put together, but I have, let's say, maybe 10 minutes, I just take this brush, put it into some eyeshadow, tap it all over my lid, use the tip to blend out the crease, and that's it. I'm done with my eyeshadow. Smudger brushes pretty much do exactly what the title is. You have different types of smudge brushes. You can see the black bristle brush looks like a little bit more on the dense side as opposed to the white handle brush. This brush right here is really good for blending out eyeliner. So if you put pencil eyeliner on and you want to smudge it out, this brush is awesome for that. It's super dense. The bristles don't have a whole lot of give to them, so you're really going to be able to get in there and smudge out any hard liner along your lash line. This is also really good for smudging along the lower lash line as well. This brush, the bristles are a little bit more on the soft side. So I like to use this when I apply, let's say I want to use eyeshadow for my liner, but I want it to be a little bit more on the soft side. I will use something like this. Also, if I've applied pencil eyeliner and I want to soften it up, what I'll do is I'll use this in a little bit of powder eyeshadow and I will just lightly go over the top of that, blending out the edges or smudging it out that way. So there are different types of smudger brushes. They both basically do the same thing, but I have two because I find that one works a little bit better for certain techniques than the other. Pencil brushes are awesome. Great for inner corner color, great for, you can smudge if you don't want to get yourself an actual smudger brush. You can just use a pencil brush and get in there and smudge your color out. It'll do the same job. You can do detailed crease work with these types of brushes. You can apply your highlight underneath your eyebrow with these types of brushes. When I worked for MAC, if I didn't have my normal lip brush, I would use a pencil brush to apply lipstick. So these brushes are quite universal and they can do the same job as, let's say, a smudger brush. The next two brushes that I'm going to show you are great for doing any kind of detail work. They're very small brushes, as you can see here. I use these two quite often. A lot of times I will use this brush if I want to apply a little bit of color to the outer corner. Let's say I put my liner on and I feel like I just need to add a little something extra to darken it up. I will use a brush like this. This is also really good if you like to sort of add like a little bit of highlight on the center of your eyelid and you want to be very sort of focal about where you're applying your color. Brushes like this are awesome for that. This one here, the bristles are a little bit on the longer side. I find that, again, Great for doing any kind of crease work. If I need a higher concentration of color in one certain area, I just use the tip of the brush, put it into my shadow, and I will press it in where I need it to go. It's a very awesome brush for doing any type of precision work. It's really good for, again, smudging color out along the lower lash line. Now, because the bristles aren't as wide, it's going to take you a little bit longer to do any kind of smudging. Also, the bristles are longer, so you're not going to be able to press as hard as you would with, let's say, a traditional smudger brush or even with a pencil brush. But again, great for doing any kind of detail work. Alright, the next thing I'm going to talk about are eyeliner brushes. There are several different types of brushes, shapes, sizes. I'm going to start off with the angle brushes here. These are two different types of angle brushes. One is a more traditional eyebrow brush. This one here is an eyebrow brush but can also be used for eyeliner. I like to use these with gel liner, and I also like to use these with pencil liner. Flat eyeliner brushes. Again, great for lining the eyes, but also great for several other things. One being cleaning up eyeliner, two being cleaning up around lip liner, but it works great for lining the eyes as well. Great for powder, cream, pencil, whatever the case may be. And then the more traditional eyeliner brushes, which are these here. These take a lot of practice. Come on. These types of brushes take a lot of practice, but once you get it down, the effect is beautiful. This brush right here makes thin lines, as you can see. This one here is going to make a little bit more of a thick line. If you're in a hurry and you're really good at applying eyeliner, you can use the bristles that are a little bit more thick and get it done quick. If you're not good with the thick brushes, stick with the small brush here, but again, it takes a lot of practice to perfect using this brush. It took me actually quite a while to perfect using this brush on myself. Not so much on other people, but definitely on myself. Alright, so that is it for my brush video for today. What I wanted to point out to you guys is that I'm sticking to mainly just traditional style brushes for this video. I didn't really want to get too much into specialty type brushes, and what do I mean by specialty type brushes? Brushes like this, just as an example. If you have questions about any type of specialty brushes like that, you can leave those down below. One thing I did want to say is that I am going to make a video. I have several other one-on-one videos that I want to do. Once I have those all out, I'm going to make one video where I talk a little bit more in depth about each of the topics that I covered in the one-on-one videos. So if you have questions or if there's something that you want me to cover in that final video, please leave that down below in the comments. And that's it, so I'm going to get going. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye.